her entire format is all about taking a video where a teacher says, I love my students, and then reposting it with the caption, these woke groomers won't stop telling us what they want to do with our kids. And then sends it to her millions of followers. And then what do you know? You know, most of her followers probably see something like that and they go, that seems kind of benign, but a bit sussy. And some of them, and this is the key part, some of them might show up to a school board meeting. Some of them might show up to the school with a gun. We're not all the same. We are. I'm sorry. This is what I mean. What is transgressive about this? What's controversial about that? What are you like? I'm genuinely curious. Like, what are you like? What is it? We can't be the same. We can't be the same. What's the deal? So I don't know. I don't get it. I hope we as a species can get past this.
Right now, why are you doing it, and why haven't you before?
So,
yes, yeah. Chaya Raichik, obviously, I think this is the first time we've actually seen what she looks like. Which she looks like the most basic Becky I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, this is, I guess, the person who runs a hate channel. That's nice. It's the banality of evil, really. We're not. It's a basic fact. Basic facts. Stop animal murder torture. That's what your name is, right? Let me pull it up really quickly. Yeah. Can I ask, what are you upset about? Like, what about the idea that you and a trans man are essentially the same? Why is that so damaging to you? What about that seems to really rustle your jimmies? I'm curious.
The reality is that I think most Twitter accounts are anonymous to start with, unless you're a public official or a figure.
Unless you have the verification.
Well, not anymore.
Yeah,
Elon changed that. But until Elon changed that,
True.
most Twitter accounts start off anonymous, as did mine. And then when my account started growing, I realized the hatred that the left has. And
so I find it really, really rich that this woman wants to start her volley off about wanting to remain anonymous online and, trying to stay out of the online vitriol, which I am sure she gets. I have no doubt that she gets a lot of vitriol. She gets a lot of pushback, and she probably gets quite a bit of antipathy thrown her way. But coming from somebody whose account, whose purpose on the platform that she's created is to sick random internet individuals, and hoping that some of them are localized, on teachers, on librarians, on school bus drivers, on normal, average, not public figures. I find it rich that she still somehow tries to do this. Oh, I just wanted to stay anonymous to stay out of kind of the mud of the internet. It's like, well, you kind of brought the mud. You kind of, you were of the mud. I'm sorry to inform you. You're not just engaging with it. You are an active driver of the kind of hate, vitriol, and violence that you say you want to avoid. That's the weirdest thing to me. That's how this woman says that with a straight face is impressive. I'll give her that.
Their violent nature, and I was like, I'm going to remain anonymous.
Yes.
As my account was growing and getting more that the left has, and their violent nature, and I was like,
yes, the violent left, the incredibly violent left, the left that aren't gun enthusiasts, the left who also, whenever people say the violent left, I can't take you seriously. There's like, please spare me.
Like, I'm going to remain anonymous.
Yes.
As my account was growing and getting more effective. And I have remained anonymous until
Don't let
now.
this girl see 4chan.
Well, until I was doxxed, my name was shared, my location was shared, my photo was never shared, though I've never done any in-person events. And I'm choosing to do that now because I feel like over the past few months, I've done so much. I've helped educate people. I know that I've helped create legislation to tackle some of these issues. And I think I've done all I can. And
as somebody who also, I would also say, made enough of an impact, like, that, at least in my opinion, she is a public figure at this point. Whether she likes that or not, or whether she thinks that she, what's the word, fits that bill as a public person, you've affected legislation and you've gotten feedback specifically from people, from legislators when crafting legislation. Yeah, you're not just a public figure at that point. You are an incredibly influential person, somebody with an outsized influence over the lives of others. So yes, I don't really, the doxing stuff of her, I don't want to say necessarily that I think that there's a threshold for when doxing is appropriate, because I do think people do have a right to a certain amount of their privacy. But there is something to be said about the way in which you interact with public spaces and how much your identity should continue to be anonymized. There is that aspect to it. What she does is incredibly dangerous, and what she does is, again, affects a lot of people. So it's, it's kind of it's also kind of a, let's be honest, it's a Crimea River thing. Like, come on now, lady. You've created all this harm, and now you're complaining that people revealed your name. Sorry, don't know what to tell you. Like, I think she was complaining that she lost like work because she was like in real estate or something. It's like, oh well, people who don't want to work with you don't want to work with you because they know who you really are. I don't really think, I certainly don't feel bad for her for that.
The next step, I get people asking me. I have mom groups asking me all the time, can you come help us? I get invitations, to help people understand how to.
Notice this person. Not this one. The one all the way over there in the chat. Not very interested in answering what bothers them so much about that. Sometimes, man, I just don't get it. I don't get it, man. Like, how you see another person and you're that upset. Like, I just don't get it. I don't get it.
To expose the left and how to fight it, and being anonymous was sort of keeping me like I was restrained from doing all those things, and I'm ready to do that. I think that I'll be a lot more effective when I'm not so anonymous anymore.
Well, yes.
And I'm excited. I already have a couple of speaking engagements planned for the next few months.
Good.
And hopefully there will be more, but I want to do all I can.
Love stochastic terror speeches. Yeah, I don't really think she's wrong in this fact. The fact that she is let's be honest here. The fact that she is a conventionally attractive, white woman without a, Southern drawl or some nonsense. And she honestly, if you threw me a picture of Chaya Raichik, I'd be like, that's probably a liberal. The fact that this is the avatar of like libs of TikTok, absolutely perfect for the right wing. It's perfect because it really undermines the clear and present danger that they pose to the communities that they've been working very hard to demonize, when this person is the leader of that movement. Because to a normal person, they might see this lady and go, oh, she looks like my niece, she looks like my cousin, she looks like whoever. Can this person be the person running this fucking demonic account? I mean, I don't know, maybe. But that's, it's the banality sort of thing.
And help people to fight this agenda.
And I'm glad that you are. I think it's an act of bravery. And you've had a remarkable effect. And I just want to say, and I'll say this another 10 times because I think it's the most interesting part about you, you haven't really editorialized very much. What you've done, essentially, is bring to further light, to publicize what they're already saying in public. That's your claim.
Wait, does Tucker Carlson know what editorializing means? All she does is, like, she's already done, like, very, what's the word? Manipulative editing on her, like, on her posts. Like, she does manipulatively edit. And also, any of her, like, posts also are incredibly, what's the word I'm looking for? Leading. Like, you know, most of them, you know, they set you up with the expectation of, like, you know, this person is, like, essentially raping kids, and then shows you something totally normal, and then they just keep reinforcing, this is grooming, this is grooming, this is grooming, this is grooming, this is grooming. Your teacher said hi, this is to your kid, this is grooming, this is grooming. Oh, your teacher said that your child is very important to them, and in the class setting. Oh, this is grooming, this is grooming, this is grooming. Like, they just sensationalize all of it. Specifically, her account actively makes a point of mischaracterizing and embellishing, or at the very least misinterpreting in an utterly extreme rate, the language, the rhetoric, the meaning behind any of the videos that get sent into her. And most of them are, again, we're talking, I think I might have watched one earlier, and it was literally just a teacher who offered their, like, love and support to students who were maybe gay or, you know, weren't sure or whatever. But if they had parents, he expressed to them that if they have parents who aren't as accepting of them, that, you know, they are loved and da-da-da-da-da, which, yeah, that's, like, what you want in teachers. Teachers, especially for kids, are incredibly important, especially as they're leaving the home and beginning to socialize outside the home. If you have kids whose parents are fundamentalists, let's just cut to the chase here, or are extreme traditionalists, or, you know, any of these extreme conservative types, there are kids going to school who, you know, they you know, school might be their one refuge from an abusive household, not just physically, but even mentally, possibly. So we're talking about, like, not just a resource from, like, a material standpoint, but from a societal resource, an ability for some of these kids to feel like they belong somewhere. And teachers are incredibly important for that. You know, having a good teacher can mean a lot. I had good teachers growing up. I enjoyed going to school on the days, like, I hated going in on, like, you know, certain days because I had to go to certain classes where I didn't like my teachers as much. I didn't get along with my teachers as much. And I had to wake up super early to go to school, to get on a bus and do all that shit. I hated going to first period on, like, Tuesdays, but I loved going to first period on Mondays because one of my favorite teachers I always had on Mondays. So it's like, and, like, you know, they were just a cool history teacher. They just taught in a way that was good for me. They spoke and they treated, like, his students with a lot of respect and a lot of equality in terms of, he didn't talk down to us or anything. Treated us all very, very well. Like, that's really important for people to get to learn. Like people with good teachers learn better. Like in, like, any kind of class, whether it's math, you know, whatever it is, when you have a good teacher. But also teachers offer that other kind of not parental, but authority figure as well. That guiding authority figure of how to kind of operate in the world. You know, and at the end of the day, like, there are youth that need those people more than others. In this case, LGBT kids, especially in the South, especially in households that aren't accepting of them. That's a resource they need. And, you know, something like the Don't Say Gay bill a big issue with that bill is that if a teacher has that kind of conversation about the maybe mental abuse that they're victim to, or if the kid opens up to them or whatever, if a teacher doesn't share that information with the abusing parents, mind you, the teacher gets in trouble, can get sued, the school board, all this stuff. So, I mean, when we talk about the targeting of the LGBT community, it's not you pass the bill and it's like no kissing dudes, no fraternizing with the same sex. That's not how those laws work. What they do is punish the people who offer resources that help those youths specifically to adjust and feel comfortable in society, because the goal is to make those queer kids feel as uncomfortable as possible, to the point that they either reverse their sexuality, which isn't going to happen, or they commit suicide. That's how this ends most of the time. Those are the two options. And Tucker Carlson and Chaya Raichik are two people who have been actively pushing, supporting, and motivating more and more people to make it less and less comfortable for these kids to just exist. So when we talk about, and these are the people who claim to be pro-life, they claim to love kids, they claim to care about life, they claim to do all this Jesus bullshit. When it comes down to it, they're causing more deaths. They're the ones who are actively pushing for a hostile society, which will lead in a higher suicide rate. That's the legacy that Chaya Raichik is going to leave behind. Meanwhile, she complains about her online anonymity.
Yeah, exactly. They don't want it to be shown, though, to certain audiences. They want their content out there, but they don't want us to see it. So it doesn't.
I don't care if you
really
see it. I don't want you spreading it to crazies and actively calling people groomers, to the point in which people get threatened at their schools or homes. That's what I do not like. I also don't like you deceptively editing or picking out people and, again, claiming that they're groomers. Like, it's like she tries to do this game where she's like, well, I'm not like going and asking these people, I'm just reposting what they post. But what you're reposting, what you're reframing, is people going about their average lives, and you're reframing it as like this sinister, evil, like rapey kids thing. It's just people going about their lives. That's the danger of this. Because at the end of the day, whether you're a teacher saying, I love my students, she will take a video. She would, her entire format is all about taking a video where a teacher says, I love my students, and then reposting it with the caption, these woke, these woke groomers won't stop telling us what they want to do with our kids, and then sends it to her millions of followers. And then what do you know? Most of her followers probably see something like that and they go, that seems kind of benign, but a bit sussy. And some of them, and this is the key part, some of them might show up to a school board meeting. Some of them might show up to the school with a gun, or at the very least with the open disposition as somebody who carries or owns firearms. So again, this is all she's doing, is reframing people being decent and painting it as being sinister. It's fucking gross.
Right.
You haven't violated anyone's privacy. You're posting what they put on TikTok.
They're allowed to post it, but we're just not allowed to notice. The crime is noticing what they're doing.
Yes, that's always the crime.
Yeah.
So I think you've done an amazing thing.
Does that make sense?
So many other people in journalism, and I am going to, whether you like it or not, describe you as being in journalism, because I think you are.
I think I am too.
It's not. How could you possibly? Okay.
You've had
The idea of Tucker Carlson having any idea what journalism actually is, obviously we don't need to talk about that.
a real effect by bringing this to light. How did you wind up, I mean, to the extent you're comfortable sharing it, like, how did you wind up doing this? I assume you went to Columbia Journalism School to become a journalist?
I went to Harvard and Yale. Thank God I didn't know, because those are now obviously, those institutions are all poisoned.
Yes, yeah. The anti-intellectualism. Imagine your niece or nephew gets into Harvard and like your sister goes like, well, you know, I would have preferred he just gone to a like trade school because those places have been poisoned. You would think that person is a psychopath. The results of people who go to Harvard, Princeton, any of Columbia, any of these colleges, the result coming out of that and their ceiling for success is so much higher than anybody like me who just went to community college for a stretch of time. Like, aside, and like, again, this is, at the end of the day, the like people who go to college, who get a tertiary education, which I think all people have a right to. And at this point in our society, it is almost a necessity to like basically function or compete in the job market. But like the people who go to these places, who have their views challenged, who have their upbringing, their biases challenged by a college environment, tend to be more left wing. And to them, they think that it's, you know, oh, it's woke teachers just making people woke. No. At the end of the day, college is a place where conservatism, from on a familial level, I should say, from like a, you know, what you're brought up, the small town you might have been brought up in, will get challenged and you will be introduced to new ideas, which their brand of conservatism cannot withstand. Because the entire, what's the word? The crux, the basis for their kind of conservatism is all about never challenging your views, never growing, and simply slotting in to the trade that your town needs, or slotting in to the retail position that your little town needs. Like, at the end of the day, this is small mind shit right here. To just do the, oh, well, you know, people who come out of college tend to be more progressive and more left leaning, so obviously college is trash. Like, no, maybe get a fucking education. Maybe learn something more than how to scour TikTok and other social media accounts. And then, you know, come talk to me about like kind of how you've grown as a person.
But so it started really during COVID. I was noticing all of this content that was being published on TikTok, and I was just like, this is crazy.
Wait,
like,
but at this point, you're not in a related field, like you weren't.
No.
You're not doing anything related to public policy or journalism.
Nothing related to politics, journalism, no.
And she's doing like real estate shit from what I understand.
Nothing.
Very political?
No.
Really?
I was not, yeah.
Because COVID was like the other day. This was just a couple years ago.
Yeah, this was 2 years ago. Well, my account started 2 years ago, yeah.
That's just incredible that you can have this effect this quickly. So you're not
It's
a super
disturbing.
political person. You're not watching people's speeches on C-SPAN.
No.
No, you're just a normal person stuck inside.
Exactly. And then COVID happened. And
So imagine that, a normal person stuck inside. How many you know, what's the kind of running understanding of how much mental damage was done to Americans during lockdown? You know, how much mental illness was exacerbated by the lockdowns, along with you know, the isolation that one feels. It's a wonder that somebody like this, who, you know, according to her, I'll take her word for this one, isn't very political, is probably just somebody who's like, yeah, the news is on, I don't really pay much attention to it. But like, to go from not being all that political all the way to, again, creating a hate account where you actively are labeling average benign people as groomers and basically potential rapists. You know, this chatter over here mentioned mental illness. I'm not sure if that's what Chaya Raichik is suffering from. Some kind of like, you know, some kind of like brain softening illness or something. But it's a wonder that when a lot of people felt like they went crazy in lockdown, this bitch goes crazy and turns into a stochastic terrorist. It's kind of wild, you know. Maybe we haven't looked at the effects of the lockdowns well enough, because clearly it had a great deal of an effect on this woman's life.
And I think that COVID, for me, and I think for a lot of people, it really woke people up. And it was like an awakening. Either you can stay like sleeping, you know, not really interested in what's going on in our government, or you can choose to get involved. And I think COVID really drew a lot of people in just because of all of the insanity that was going on and that was being imposed on us. Our rights were being violated.
Right, the right to go out and spread disease. That's the right she's speaking of, obviously.
I was like, and that was really a turning point for me.
So she also mentioned awakening, which I can't help but ask, is she a QAnoner? Because this is kind of, Libs of TikTok is also kind of QAnon-y, isn't it? Like, it's a bit sussy, yeah? Like, I'm not, yeah, it just can't help but be like, I don't know about that. I'm getting a QAnon vibe from this.
To get involved and to be interested. And then COVID also is when TikTok started becoming big, because everyone was stuck at home looking for entertainment. And then they stumbled on TikTok, and we started seeing all those videos of nurses, you know, dancing in hospitals during the pandemic. And I was like, you know, TikTok was getting really big, and I was like, oh, you know, let me see what this TikTok thing is all about. And then I stumbled upon this whole platform with all of the stuff. You know, everyone, I'm sure, has seen some of the videos. It's just, there's so much more. And I was like, I need to disseminate this. Like it's just so bizarre and dangerous. And I was like, I just need as many people to see this as possible. And
in large part, not exclusively, but there was a lot of adults bragging about sexualizing children.
Yes, a lot. Specifically teachers. There are also just parents, activists, doctors. That is the most scary part about it, and that's what my account focuses on a lot now.
Gosh, what an interesting...
Oh my God, Tulsi, go the fuck away. I want to kind of hone in on the last little bit of this.
TikTok, and we started seeing all those videos of nurses, you know, dancing in hospitals during the pandemic. And I was like, you know, TikTok was getting really big, and I was like, oh, you know, let me see what this TikTok thing is all about. And then I stumbled upon this whole platform with all of the stuff. You know, everyone, I'm sure, has seen some of the videos. It's just, there's so much more. And I was like, I need to disseminate this. Like it's just so bizarre and dangerous.
So the thing that she's also saying is bizarre, again, is gays existing near children. That's the thing that she thinks is bizarre. Like, oh, this is a lovely still frame. But yeah, that's the thing that she's really like, this is bizarre. This is so weird. Like, is it? Is it weird?
And I was like, I just need as many people to see this as possible.
And in large part, not exclusively, but there was a lot of adults bragging about sexualizing children.
Yes.
That's the thing that perked up in my head while I was looking at checking something. Yeah, the the definition, not only just the definition, but the term sexualizing children has also been completely and utterly devalued at this point. Because, which also, by the way, isn't actually good if you want to like combat child sexual assault. But what a part of this goal has clearly been to lower the floor, or lower the ceiling, I should say, to as low as you can possibly have it, to be sexualizing children. Like, if you're wearing too short of shorts around children, you're sexualizing children. If you're wearing makeup and you're a man, you're sexualizing children. Even though if you're wearing makeup and you're a woman and you're around children, you're not sexualizing children. Now, granted, these goalposts move whenever they need them to move, they move. But the point being is that the right, and specifically this woman and Tucker Carlson, have done a good job at essentially making the term sexualizing children to be meaningless. It doesn't mean anything now. And now we have one less term to refer to when we want to identify child sexual abuse, because now it's turned into something that, you know, we have to actually parse the definition of. If you asked 3 years ago, before Libs of TikTok, if you had asked people what grooming is, they would have given you two answers. One, they would have said, "Oh, that's the thing that I take my dog and or cat to because I don't feel like giving them baths." That's the first one. The second answer they'll most likely give you is somebody who is preparing children for child sexual assault, right? That's kind of the other definition that, you know, that most people would understand. But we now must contend with the fact that that if you say groomer, now people aren't sure, or at the very least now we have to have an entire conversation and have to have an entire understanding of what the fuck you're talking about, because she's turned groomer into, hey, are you adjacent to children and acting in any non-heteronormative fashion? That's grooming. But my point is that you level the playing field to the point that you can't tell the difference between a honestly queer person and somebody who wants to predate on children. Or is that the term? Child sexual predator. That's the whole idea, is that you equalize it to, like, if anything, Chaya Raichik is doing a favor to sexual predators at the end of the day, because she is equalizing their identity with simply being queer, which has nothing to do with children. So it, again, went on a bit of a tangent there, but it's just fucking stupid. Like, and not only stupid, it's unhelpful. It's unhelpful, and it doesn't do the thing that she purports to care about, which is protect kids. It puts kids in more danger. You know, when you equalize the stuff, you make it harder to discern who's doing the bad thing and who's not.
A lot, specifically teachers. There are also just parents, activists, doctors. That is the most scary part about it. And imagine you being accepting. Imagine you're living in like Portland, Oregon. I'm just going to pick a town. You're living a very left town. You're living in Portland, Oregon. You're very supportive of your gay son. And all of a sudden, your face, your child's face, the area in which you live in has now been broadcasted to millions of people who hate your child's identity and also think that you are going to rape your child. Like, you want to talk about like a genuinely like despicable person? This lady, because that's what she is doing. When she says parents specifically, that's what's happening. Now, that's happening to teachers and all the rest of the people that she mentioned. But imagine that's your kid, and suddenly people are coming to you being like, "Oh, you're grooming your child." You're like, what the fuck? Well, I don't even know who you fucking people are. You know? So, it's just, fuck Christ. That's what my account focuses on a lot now.
That's nice.
Gosh, what an
That's really nice. Gosh, what an interesting conversation. Like I said, I kind of said it earlier a little bit. I'm not going to say I'm tired, because I don't really think that's fair for me to be like, I'm tired, but like I said, I really wish we got to a point where we didn't have to do this whole song and dance constantly. I do think it's disappointing. It's disappointing to me that, at the end of the day, she's making, she's probably making a good amount of money off of this. She probably doesn't do whatever her real estate job is anymore. She's not really much different than somebody like me. I started doing this show a couple months ago. I do really like I like coming on here. I enjoy talking with people, even when some of them unfortunately end up being cowards and don't want to engage once I ask them a hard question about themselves. But that's okay. That happens. But I do this because there's a certain sense of independence and security that I feel doing this. Nobody can fire me for doing that, for coming on here. I already have the mic, I already have the camera, and everything else. There's a certain safety in that, and there's a certain ownership that I take over this, that I enjoy. But also, this is a vehicle, in my opinion, for me to hopefully change some minds, hopefully have some positive conversations, but also to create positive outcomes and to do what I think, or at least forward a vision of the world that I think would make more people happy. And unfortunately, somebody like Chaya Raichik is somebody who has watched society slip away from her values, not realizing that Chaya Raichik is like every other person in history, in that the values of the society that she is living in has always been moving past her. Her moment has always moved on. And her entire channel, her entire Twitter account, her entire online existence is essentially her attempting to claw back the last vestige of influence and dominance over the society she lives in, over the culture that she thinks she has a right to dictate. That is why she targets normal people. That is why she targets small individuals. It's why her account is based on antagonism. Chaya Raichik did not start her account because she wanted to bring positivity, because she wanted to have conversations, because she wanted to do anything that anybody would call productive. Chaya Raichik created her channel because she is small, hateful, and recognizes that she is running out of time to hold power. And it's sad. It's sad watching somebody like that. It's sad watching thousands, millions of people. Hello, Cord. Thanks for the follow. I appreciate you. It's sad to see so many people buy in to that kind of mindset, because it's not going to get them anywhere. Joe Schmo, who's a fucking plumber, who, doesn't get trans people, he's going to watch her TikToks. He's going to watch her Twitter feed. He's going to watch those videos. He's going to go like, I can't believe this. This is so wrong. And you know what he's going to do? He's going to go to work. He's going to get up in the morning. He's going to go to his truck. He's going to go to his work site. He's going to fit plumbing shit. I don't know anything about plumbing. I just picked plumber. But he's going to do all of that, right? And while he does that, he is not going to be able to shake the idea that somehow the world around him is falling. Thinking, can you believe these these blue-haired liberals and these gays who teach our kids and all the rest of this stuff. Meanwhile, not just his wages, his commissions have gone down. The house that he bought 5 years ago just got more expensive because they just built a few luxury condos down, like, less than a mile from him. The people in his neighborhood, his neighbors that he's known for 10 years maybe, they've now moved out because they can't afford to live there anymore. His wife is probably working a job most of the time. He doesn't really see her that often because one income isn't enough to run a household. His life is not going to get any better engaging with any of this stuff and reinforcing it and having it reinforced in his mind. It's just not. And, I don't know. It's disappointing. I want more for people. I don't like that we're stuck on this type of bullshit because there are people who live every day struggling, barely able to keep the roof over their heads, keep their health in order, and they're being fed junk food in terms of their news. They're being fed junk food in terms of their frame of culture, their frame of society. And we wonder why people are so dissatisfied these days. We wonder why people are they alienate themselves. They isolate themselves. They don't recognize society. But when would they? Again, they got jobs to go to. They got 9 to 5s they have to work. They're working 5-6 days a week just to keep the lights on, just to keep the roof over their head. I don't want to say I have a lot of sympathy for transphobes, because I don't. But from a societal level, I'm lamentful that we're still having these issues. We're still constantly fighting about the amount of melanin in people's skin, who they like to marry, who they love, what they identify, what they would like to be referred to in public. And I've heard people say, sometimes it's, when you're powerless, what else do you have but power over the even more powerless around you? It's just, and Tucker Carlson, Shia Raichik, these people, they've seized on it. They've made a lot of money. They've made an immense amount of money on. Oh, didn't mean to do that. That was not the transition. They've made an immense amount of money on keeping these people anxiety ridden from this type of shit, instead of allowing them the space to go out and meet somebody who might be gay. Go meet a trans person. You'll find trans people, and again, the lovely chatter who did a whole bunch of reeing earlier, the thing that bothers them is the idea that they might be the same as you. That the trans person that you think is a little weird or whatever is no more different than you are. But Tucker Carlson makes money off of making you think that they're different, specifically lesser than. Oh. I don't know. Let's talk about socioeconomic state of the world. Exactly. Aaron Dam. Exactly. At the end of the day, there's been a lot of men discourse over the last couple of days on the left. And, to briefly weigh in on it, overall, we need to address, I think the way we address this is by explaining the pitfalls, the hypocrisies of capitalism. That's, if you're asking me, the how do we address male loneliness? How do we address the a male suicide rate? How do we kind of address and talk about this problem without the trappings of men's rights activism and all the rest of that kind of blibbity blabbity nonsense? We talk about economics. We talk about the systems in which men have to exist in, which all of us do. But capitalism has done a wonderful job at not just alienating everybody, but also pitting everybody and training everybody, in my opinion, to compete over everything. You know, as a young high school male, I can only I remember the feeling of scarcity that I remember that feeling of scarcity in terms of who was possible to date, in terms of who was attainable as a possible relationship partner. And that's kind of how I feel like we've trained our society in a lot of ways, with this not just artificial scarcity, but with a kind of social scarcity and these social expectations that we put on a lot of people, and a lot of men specifically. This year, I really, really want to, a goal of mine is to talk to a few people with kind of this frame of mind, who are going through kind of that loneliness, and who, I got to figure out how to speak to some of those people, but how to get them on. But I really want to talk to some of these folks and kind of hear what they have to say, because I know what I went through in high school, but I'm really curious what these kids are kind of going through these days with the with everything that's going on. It's got to be a sometimes difficult existence, I can imagine. But either way, Aaron Dam has it right. The socioeconomic state of the world is incredibly important, and also from a macro perspective, incredibly important, but also from a micro perspective, and kind of socializing everybody, I think, a little bit better together would be really positive. Would really help in this case. You only fear a neighbor you don't know. And if you stay isolated, like some of these people are, and you don't go to college because you're told it's been poisoned and stuff like that, like, yeah, you never give other people a chance. And, you kind of just end up as a wall of a person without any ability to just absorb the idea that, there are different people. Anyway, long spiel over. The thing that they tell, like at the end of all YouTube videos where they tell you to like click on one of these like things to watch more videos. Yeah, I've been meaning to film one of those. So that's what I was doing. I was just setting it up to